Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Uncuckables for another week. For some reason, the intro music malfunctioned, but I can't go and investigate it right now because I see that viewers are already here. So on with the show. So hello, I'm Tim Wilms, editor-in-chief of the Unshackled. Here, as always, is David Hiscox, editor of the XYZ. How are you?
Very good, Tim. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to another hour and a half of derailing your attempts to keep us on track.
Yes. Well, it's only one of you tonight. Maddie is off playing soccer.
I'll have to channel him. Yeah.
Yes, and we've got for the first time making his Uncuckables debut, Joel Jammal of Christian Democrat Party notoriety as seen on TV, but also a contributor to Carnage House Productions. Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, I think I said on the phone to you that you would be our first non-European guest. I'm not sure not first non-white guest, because even though you're Arab, you look very white.
I do need a bit of tanning, that's for sure, no doubt. But I assure you, I am 100%, not a drop of European in me.
We've had Australian Meditations Stefanos on a number of times. I remember when he came on my show, I asked him, are Greeks white? And he said, yes, we're just tanned because of the sun.
Well, yeah, the terminology of white is a little bit misleading because really it's about blood and it's about genetics and it's about who your people are. That's the way I see nationalism. Like, there are a lot of Asians have like very, very white skin, but they're not European. So white, whatever. Yeah.
So Joel, welcome aboard. We'll test you out for the next hour and a half just to see how uncuckable you are, and I suggest you read the live chat as well, because that's just as.
The live chat will change your life.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just leave that for once the episode's done.
All right, and the title of tonight's show is "The Queen Saves Brexit," because the Queen she's done something she hasn't done for her 90 plus years of existence. Well, I got told by Lucas Roses, our a contributor, because what she's done, Boris Johnson wanted to prorogue Parliament so anti-Brexit MPs couldn't try and do a last-minute manoeuvre to stop him doing a no-deal Brexit. And so he asked the Queen to prorogue Parliament, which apparently is unprecedented, and they all wrote to the Queen saying, you can't do this. And she did it.
And she did it because it's within the law, it's within her power as the constitutional monarch.
She has unlimited power. She's just never exercised it.
Okay. Well, good on her. It's just, problem is it's about, she could have done it. When did she rise to power?
1952.
I knew you'd know that. She could have done it in the 1950s when England was first invaded, essentially. That's when she should have actually stood up and done something about this. But it's better late than never. Personally, I think this is a good start. I think from here, Boris Johnson can basically not just suspend Parliament, but prevent Parliament from ever coming back. Then I think he should put the whole lot of them on trial for treason.
It's funny because there's been a snap protest out Westminster, and it happened late last night.
The lefties are very good at organising.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
The Queen did this late last night, Australian time, and I was like, wow, this is even bigger than what Boris Johnson wanted to do in the first place. And I saw trending on Twitter, stop the coup. and all these lefties, they were starting to, they wanted to put Queen Elizabeth on the guillotine.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. You were going to say, Joel?
No, that's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, it brings back vivid thoughts in the British history about monarchs getting their heads chopped off, and that's just heads rolling. What? Yeah, I think that's probably strike number 2 for the Queen. First of which was even smiling and dining with the Donald.
Now we are live on
Oh,
Entropathy,
yeah, but that's
our live chat software that Maddie loves so much. The best part about it is you can give us super chats. We don't have 1,000 subs on this channel, but Entropy doesn't care, and they also take less of a cut than Google do. So make sure you head over there. I'll keep putting the link in the live chat, so get over there and, you know, hint hint, do something else while you're over there.
We like capitalism.
And we're back. Now, we are all okay. I'll explain what happened. Is all of a sudden our computer shut off and said there was an error and it needed to restart and collect some information on the error.
Yes, and then it said this message was brought to you by Mossad.
It reminded me, because I've started watching on Netflix the Designated Survivor, which is about the US Capitol blows up during the State of the Union, and like the Designated Survivor becomes the president.
Yeah,
And when
I'm interested. Yeah.
and when he's watching it, the TV cuts out, and he's like, "Oh, what's happened there?" And then they go outside, and it's on. So no, there was not, and some Antifa device that went off here. Yeah. Well, the intro didn't play properly, so something was up.
Yeah. Okay. So there are a few gremlins in the system there. Yeah.
Yes.
So we were talking about how the British Parliament are traitors and shouldn't be allowed back. We've made the point, like the British Parliament, like you've got a whole bunch of people in there who are for the globalist status quo. You've got globalists on the right and you've got globalists on the left, and then you've got actual real conservatives, real Britons trying to take back their country. And so they can whinge all they want, like the left can protest all they want. The British Parliament actually needs a clearing out, and hopefully it gets that if, like, say, Nigel Farage and the Brexit Party come through. If Boris Johnson can actually get some Tories who actually want to represent their people rather than the globalists, that'll be tremendous.
I'm impressed with just what a madman he's turned out to be, Boris Johnson. I mean, this is way more epic than anything Trump's ever done, in my opinion.
Oh, well, Trump tried to shut down the government, but then he stopped, you know.
Oh, well, yeah, government shutdowns, I mean, in the United States, I mean, they're over budget things, like they happen all the time. I mean, Trump that's nothing special.
Yeah, but yeah, okay, yeah, shutting down Parliament, suspending Parliament, yeah, get rid of him. That's a big deal.
I think it is quite ominous though, because it's like, this is Brexit we're talking about. You know, he's suspending Parliament, so they can't get anything through except the no-deal Brexit. Like, that's a pretty big deal. You know, with the government shutdowns, as you said, yeah, they happen every now and then. You know, some workers may not get paid for a few weeks, but this is Brexit. Like, it's huge.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's nice to see somebody with the balls to actually go through with it and actually take the necessary steps to actually achieve it. Because, like, if Parliament was, like, still there, obviously, like, they would be doing everything that they could to undermine it. Like, there would just be they just have a way of just making things go around in circles. So there's vote after vote after vote on more and more tedious aspects of, like, little bits of policy, and it's like you just get run around in circles, and you end up arguing over the he said, she said. You end up arguing over who's got the most votes for what, and just rather than actually getting to the meat of the matter of how do we actually get out of the European Union. So that's I think it's tremendous. I think, yeah, as I've said, I don't think the British Parliament represents the British people. So sideline them as much as you can.
And I think it is comforting knowing that because we know with Theresa May, for example, over 100 times she said that they'd be leaving on March the 31st, I think it was. Yeah. And there's this great reel of her saying this from Nigel Farage that he put out. And it's hilarious. And it's like, how do we know Boris Johnson's any different? Well, I think this is an indicator that he is.
Yeah.
I think that ever since Nigel Farage has been calling Boris Johnson out, saying, you better deliver. If you don't deliver, we're coming after you and the whole nation. Because we have, I think this week he announced all his 500 candidates that are going to be contesting every single seat from north to south. And that's going to be phenomenal. You guys should go. I don't know if you've seen his speech in front of those candidates, but it was pretty epic.
Nigel Farage's speech?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Good.
I was hoping there you were talking about. I'm still doing tech stuff in the background, but I thought you were talking about Boris Johnson and the Tory candidates, because there's all those conservatives, Remainers in the Tory party, and like they're the ones who he's worried about are going to team up with Labor and the Liberal Democrats. Liberal Democrats over there are pretty much the Remain party. They came second in the recent UK European parliamentary elections. Now, I was saying before we got cut off that we are on Entropy, where you can give us super chats.
Are you making that a meme?
What?
Entropy.
I literally can't pronounce it. I can't.
Entropy.
P.
There you go. He's just said it.
Having elocution lessons live on
phonetics.
YouTube.
Well, I mean, it's more than we can say for our education system this week, right?
I blame education. The phonetics is amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah, so apparently this is unprecedented, this suspension of democracy, this prologuing of Parliament. And as I was saying last night, Stop the Coup was trending. And
Bieber anti-bullying actually said, how can it be a coup when she's already like the actual person in charge of the whole country?
Yeah, this is the thing. She, like, the Queen has the ultimate power. She can even reclaim Australia. Literally, reclaim Australia.
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah. So this is the thing, but she's never exercised it.
Yeah.
And I have a theory about why she's done what is seen as such a radical action, is because she's realized now that she's raised a family full of SJWs and pedophiles. And so she's like, I'm in my 90s now. I'm going to die soon. I'm going to leave it to, these clowns. I might as well do, something good before I die.
Yeah. It's a shame that it wasn't when she realized that British people are on their way to becoming a minority in their own country. But at least it's something, yeah.
There's something else I could say on that as well.
I feel like it's a bit of a non-event that the Queen approved this, because isn't this how everything goes? With everything that has to be approved. I want to call a general election. You have to go to the Queen.
Yes,
true.
Yes,
in Australia, if you want to call an election, you have to go to the Queen's representative. Isn't it like a non-factor? Because I mean, the Queen, I'm pretty sure I've heard she generally errs on the leader of the nation. She very rarely goes against the will of the people. The will of the people being the party that's in power, the party in power being the Prime Minister. And so I'm just like, I don't know why they're attacking the Queen so much, because it's like, she wouldn't do it to Labor. She'd approve it to Labor if Labor said the same thing. She's not interfering. I don't know.
No.
That's a really good point. And if you think of like historical precedents, like say in the last century, I can only think of one, and that's in Australia, where like the Queen's representative went against the wishes of the Prime Minister, and that rent the country asunder. So yeah. And when was the last time a British monarch went against the wishes of the British Parliament?
But I remember, the dismissal in 1975. Remember there were all these protests, outside the Parliament in Canberra. This is a massive outrage.
I'm not that old, Tim. I was 78. I was.
No,
born.
I was saying like as seen on TV. I know you're not that old.
Yeah, no.
But there were all these protests saying we want Gough. This is a coup. Yet they had an election 1 month later. Malcolm Fraser, the unelected Prime Minister, won in the biggest landslides in Australian history.
Yeah.
So all those, Bremoners outside Westminster at the moment, like, sure, they can draw a crowd, but yeah, they're saying this is the suspension of democracy. I just want to show.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? Like, they lost the crucial vote. Yeah.
I'm gonna bring this up now. This is the Brexit vote from 2016. See that? Leave 51.9%, 17.4 million votes. Remain 48.1%. 16.1 million votes. So
Can I just make a point on the statistic, the Leave vote? Of that 17 million people, 4 to 5, almost 5 million people were Labour voters. So that's important to know. And then the rest were more right-leaning. Just so that when, people try to bag them out as all that 17 million votes being the deplorables, as, Hillary Clinton would say, just be careful, because that's 4 million of your votes too.
No, but they didn't know what they were voting for. They weren't, and remember, it was Cambridge Analytica. They manipulated Facebook to brainwash everybody to vote for Brexit. Don't you remember?
Yes, I remember.
Yes.
Look up who the leak apparently was from.
Oh yes, we showed him and his unique pink hairstyle.
Yeah. You make an excellent point there, Joel, and it backs up what I'm talking about the British Parliament. I'm not actually trying to be histrionic about it. The point is that the British Parliament and the parties of the British Parliament don't represent the British people, because this is a question over pretty much the most crucial aspect, the most crucial question facing Britain, and you've got like a divide down different party lines here. And that's why I talk about you've got globalists on the right and globalists on the left sort of dominating both parties. And what will hopefully come along in the next few years, especially if the Brexit party actually has some electoral success, is that Britain will actually have political parties which actually represent the British people, down a more modern, basically a more modern, reflecting a more modern Britain. Like, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But the thing is, when they say these Bramonas that they're for democracy, they're for indirect democracy.
I love it how you can say Bramonas so easily, but entropy is hard.
I've been talking about Bramonas because when Sukith was with us, that was one of his things when he wrote about Brexit, Bramonas. So
that's good.
I'm used to the expression, but they only like indirect democracy where the voters are forced to vote for elites.
Yes.
Direct democracy is terrible because then the people get to directly vote on an issue and the elites have to implement it. That's horrible.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
We wouldn't want that. I think it was 3/4 of MPs actually voted against Brexit when the time came. So it was nothing like the 54% that voted for it. And I think that's one of the crazy things about this vote. It's it highlighted the London, elite, the ivory towers that left and right, the lower class people just did not like. And it's fascinating watching it crumble down. I think it's a global movement too.
Absolutely. And there's one more point to make about democracy, and because like the definition of democracy is basically just you let the people vote on issues and they decide, the left have a different version of they have a different definition of democracy, and every now and then they'll actually accidentally tell you what they think it is. The left view democracy as socialism. When they talk about leveling the playing field for across the board, when they talk about say having affirmative action or basically discrimination to get more women into like university courses or something like that, they'll refer to that as making those university courses more democratic. So that their concept of democracy is socialism. So if the people vote against what they see as a socialist principle, to them that's undemocratic.
Joel, I told you to look at the live chat. There's some lively discussions about you in there.
That's all right. I'll leave it. It's not going. It's not going anywhere. It's immortalized in the internet.
Yeah, it's. Oh.
No, you're saying something.
Yep.
I was reading the chat.
Well, the difference is now is that we've got a prime minister who actually believes in Brexit, and not just because Theresa May, like, even though she was a soft Remainer, she said Brexit means Brexit, but it obviously didn't. But Boris Johnson, he wanted Brexit, and he's committed to delivering it by any means necessary. And yeah, yeah, this is the thing. It may be unprecedented to prolong Parliament, but these Remainers, they've tried every trick in the book. Remember, they appealed to the High Court of the UK to say that it had to go through Parliament, that everything had to go through Parliament, that basically the elites had to... the elites had to agree on how the people's will would be implemented.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Sorry, go on, Tim.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and now there's these calls for a second referendum, claiming that people have changed their mind. But I just want to bring up another graphic. This was taken just before Theresa May's Brexit deal was voted on. Leave with no deal, 28%. Leave with May's deal, 13%. Soft Brexit, 16%. But Remain, 43%. So I don't think the public has changed its mind.
Yeah. If anything, that's more people in favour of Brexit now. At least from that poll, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've listened to. I used to be a labourer, and I used to listen to hours, like hundreds of hours worth of LBC, and I just listened to Nigel Farage and Majid Nawaz, two different sides, go through caller after caller after caller, and the amount of calls I heard of ex-Remainers, people who voted to remain in the EU, and then they said that they changed their vote because they'd seen the way the elites, stuck their nose up at the levers. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating, because they still have a shared understanding of who they are, people that are being downtrodden from these elites, and having boulders thrown on them from this ivory tower, and they've had enough. They just said, no, I'm no longer going to do it. And on top of that, I'm going to look out for my fellow Leave voters who I didn't vote for, but I will join them anyway.
Yeah, great.
And that's the attitude of Piers Morgan, who he voted Remain, but is like, people voted for Brexit, it should be implemented. And so he's been going off at, all these butthurt Bremoners on Twitter. And Hugh Grant, he said, Boris Johnson, he's, stealing from my children's future. And Piers Morgan just posted his mugshot when he got arrested for being with Divine Brown. Which is, Piers Morgan's a tabloid newspaper man, and so, yeah.
Has Piers Morgan just taken, all of the red pills in the last couple of years?
He was the original, when he was in America doing his Piers Morgan Tonight, where he just raged against, the Second Amendment the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex Jones went on and said, go back to England.
Yes.
And that became, a meme. And so he eventually took that advice,
yes.
If you don't like it, go home. And now he's focusing on fixing his own country.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Piers Morgan. Ironically, the first time I saw him or heard of him, he was having a debate with Ben Shapiro, and it was like they were both going bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
So, make of that what you will. I'm amazed just at, all of a sudden, this guy's one of the most based people on British television.
Yeah, because he took our advice. If you don't like America, go back to where you came from. He did, and now he's fixing that country.
Yeah, and it's more about he seems to be somebody who's actually had an honest look at subjects and has actually done a 180 on a lot of them as well. And that's not something that you often see from mainstream media journalists, especially someone as high profile as him.
Yeah, and he's also spoken out against Trump derangement syndrome, because he was the winner of the Celebrity Apprentice, and so he spent a lot of time with Donald Trump. And so he's like, come on, guys, I've spent heaps of times in Trump. I know that he's not this sociopathic racist.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's phenomenal, that interview with Ben Shapiro he had, I think, last week, where he sat down on the Sunday special and they discussed guns, they discussed the Trump derangement syndrome, and it was absolutely fascinating, because these were two people where, they just debated like cat and dog on this one issue. And, I think he said to Ben Shapiro, get that stupid little book out of here or something. And so it was really heated. And here they are sitting down cordially for an hour, and they both agree about this Trump derangement syndrome. That's when all right, there's an issue here. What's going on? And I think it was really great.
Fascinating.
So basically, this is the the one last shot the Bramonas have, basically just to yell and scream on the street, because they're probably going to stay there for as long as they can. They're probably thinking they're the people of Hong Kong.
Tell you what, I hope the Bramonas get violent.
But but the difference is the people of Hong Kong, they're wanting to remain independent. These Remainers, they're wanting to be part of a super state, undemocratic super state.
Yeah, we'll go with your line of thought. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's it's a little safer, Asia. They're like, hey, China, please come in and dominate us. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about the Uncuckables, my God.
So yeah, I've been, like I said, very pleased with Boris Johnson so far, because a lot of these like leaders who say they're going to do stuff, like they end up just cucking. But yeah, Boris Johnson, he's one step ahead of all of them.
Yeah, good on him. Good on him. What do you got next for us, Tim?
Sorry?
What do you got next for us, Tim?
I've got to get the running sheet back up because everything crashed.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
No. Well, keep talking.
Me?
Yeah.
So how about
look,
those ashes?
on the Brexit thing, it's fascinating how they've completely tried to thwart the decision that was made. The 54% of people, the 17 million votes, that 1 million votes over what was voted for, because we see the exact thing from the 2016 election. What are they trying to do? They're saying it was an illegitimate campaign. They should get rid of the Electoral College, the very thing that stops smaller states and rural communities from being absolutely overridden by the big population centers like California. And there's a big movement in California to split it up into like 4 different states with delegates. And I don't know if you guys can think of anything. Was there anything like that in Australia after this last election where they ruled it out as an illegitimate campaign?
Well, no, because the coalition won the two-party preferred vote, 51.5% to Labor's 48.5%. So, well, actually, the coalition should have had more seats by that figure, because they only have a 2-seat majority. But
are you talking about in the lower
Australian
house?
election?
Are you talking about in the lower house, though?
Yes, lower house.
Because in the upper house, it's the new laws that they introduced have actually gone against the minor parties.
Yes.
Yeah. That's actually been a disgrace in the upper house. Like it's actually been quite undemocratic.
I'd had enough of the preference group rating tickets myself.
Well, how are we supposed to get then parties which actually represent the Australian people? Like it's
lower quota. Like I like that New South Wales has a 4.3% quota rather than a 14.3% at the federal level.
Yeah. So
I would just prefer a lower quota, so that parties that even if they get 2 or 3%, they've still got a chance of getting in, like the Christian Democrats, as they did at every New South Wales state election up until the most recent one.
Yeah, but basically what they're doing in the federal parliament with the upper house is they're preventing that sort of thing from ever happening again. It's basically gone to all the major parties in a couple of One Nations. If good luck for like Fraser Anning's party, for example, being able to actually get representation in the upper house.
All right, I've got the running sheet back up. We're going to go back to your home state, Joel, New South Wales, because you've got that wonderful entertainment house there, the Independent Commission Against Corruption, and they've been hearing about how New South Wales Labor Party, they accepted a $100,000 cash donation in an alley bag from Chinese businessman Kwang Zhangimo, and they laundered it through distributing it to made up donors, like real people, but like just attributed these donations. And it wasn't until the Electoral Commission sort of went through and said, hang on, like these people like waiters and waitresses, and they're giving all this money to the Labor Party.
That's kind of third world tier, isn't it? Like we like to pride ourselves on the idea that Australia isn't corrupt like that, but that's the sort of stuff that you hear of, I don't know, from like Africa or Italy or Greece or something like that. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
like cash, Aldi bags. What?
Yeah.
Well, you're reasonably young, Joel. I'm not sure if you remember the New South Wales Labor's 16-year stint in government and just how corrupt it became at the end.
No, no,
Mm.
not at all. When was that? 16 years?
Yeah,
That was a
1995
lot
to 2011. And
before my time.
yeah, do you remember Eddie Obeid, who's currently in jail? Labor the most corrupt politicians that ever served in our parliament.
Eddie Obeid rings a bell.
Mm.
Yeah.
What ethnicity is Eddie Obeid?
Sounds Lebanese.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah, look, I was chatting with a news reporter on this, Alexandra Smith for the Sydney Morning Herald yesterday. It's fascinating because she was covering that, and it's just crazy how that's been blowing up the Labor Party and how there's talk of Albanese maybe having to step in, but it's interesting.
So the New South Wales Labor State Secretary, Kalina Mernan, first female Labor New South Wales State Secretary, she's had to step aside because even though she wasn't State Director at the time, it was a gentleman by the name of, I've got to get this name right. Where is it? When I get the name, I'll say it because I don't want to get the name wrong. But she witnessed this bag at Labor HQ in Sussex Street in Sydney, and like if you notice this illegal donation, because not only was he a Chinese businessman later found to have Chinese Communist Party links.
But, really fascinating.
But,
I never would have thought. No.
But property developer donations were banned. So it was sinister on both counts.
Oh, is that Sam Dastiari?
Yeah, because he's given testimony to ICAC. It says former Labor Senator Sam Dastiari assaulted a corruption inquiry that billionaire Hung Zhangmo may have been an agent of influence for the Chinese government. Yeah, no shit. Like, you only just figured that out, Sam? Like, no wonder you had to resign.
Can you share that photo of Sam Dastiari?
Sam Dastiari.
That's an amazing photo.
All right. If you want to know,
he looks like that. Oh, hang on. I'll wait for it.
Oh, I've got to
bring this up. It's amazing. It's actually an amazing shot.
There it is. There.
Is it up?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what she said.
Yeah. So, well, it looks like his typical clownish self.
Well, he looks like that retarded kid who has to wear a helmet.
It has to protect him from dangerous donors.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's beautiful.
All right, we've got Joel back now. Yep. So, well, it's basically we know that Labor has had a lot of connections to the Chinese, and well, this is just sort of what we already knew, but just new information.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the new South Wales Labor leader is Jodie Mackay, and it's interesting. So it's a female state leader and now former state secretary who's a woman, and there is another woman sniping at the sidelines, which is Emma Husar, because the former state secretary.
Is she the Is she the one who actually sexually harassed her male staffers?
Well, she bullied them. It was found that
the
she
dishwashing one. Oh.
Yeah, she found that she bullied them, but
something about her and her downstairs.
Yeah, the Sharon Stone leg reveal was not proven, and she sued BuzzFeed for defamation successfully.
Oh god, that's funny.
Well, the reason why she's a part of this now is because Kalina Mernan, she was like the instigator of the get Emma Husar, and so Emma Husar sort of been saying, I'm not dancing on the grave, but I do think that these people should be taken down. So she's sort of saying, oh, I'm not celebrating, but I kind of am.
Yeah, wow.
Mm.
I remember being told in university that when we had more women in Parliament, it would make politics a more civilized affair, less corrupt, more humane. How's that working out?
Well, they've gone from the faceless.
Ask Dia. She certainly doesn't agree. That's for sure.
Yeah, good on it.
Well, New South Wales Labor was known for the faceless men of the party. Now we've got, well, the faceless women. It's all about the women now, and they're just as bad.
By the sounds of it, we're seeing a little bit too much of it. Anyway.
I certainly think more women in politics has opened the door to socialism. That's for sure, and we know what comes with socialism.
That's it.
Well, you've got a female premier up there as well in New South Wales, Gladys Berejiklian. She's been under a bit of fire herself.
Exactly. Look how that's working out. Stabbed 30% of her voters, Liberal voters, in the back.
Yeah,
we're going after her if this goes through.
Stabbed several thousand, well, tens of thousands, hundreds of how many thousands of babies is she stabbing in the heart?
I noticed that she did some community outreach on Monday night. She went on Q&A.
Yeah, right.
It was their youth special. So she was on with Christina Keneally and a bunch of school kids, like the school kids panelists.
Did any of the school kids go, "I'm glad I wasn't aborted" to it?
No. But it's funny, like the two like politicians you get from the major parties are Gladys Berejiklian and Christina Keneally.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so they're putting the female up against the female.
But apparently it was a big outrage that Ben Fordham on 2GB asked Gladys Berejiklian whether she'd consider having an abortion.
Really? Good on
I don't
her.
think it should be. Not
Sorry?
at all. I don't think it should be a what's it called? He should have every right to ask that question. I mean,
What was her response?
Well, she claims she's personally opposed due to her religious beliefs.
Then why did she even let it through? That's amazing.
Because she believes in separation of church and state, or that's how she sees it.
yeah, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. Not in our constitution.
So
Anyone that studied Stephen Chavura on our constitution knows that's not a thing.
So it's been delayed until September, and it just seems to be also they can say they've given it more time for consideration so we can pass it. That's sort of what I interpret it as.
I don't know about that. Like they've had a lot of submissions like opposed to it, haven't they?
Yeah, but they can just throw them in the garbage.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have to listen to them.
True. Well, as I was saying last week, you could actually make the case that, like, at least that delay could well have saved a few lives. Like,
Yes.
there will be children born because there was a delay on the vote.
And I also noticed that because one of the vocal pro-life activists in the Liberal Party has been Tanya Davies, and a man has faced court for calling up her office, issuing a death threat. I should have got the article
Does
up.
anybody
but
find that
basically,
ironic?
called her allegedly a dumb slut, and that a woman can do with what she wants with her body. So basically, a sexual slur against her, saying like what, like. Sort of, or the term slut shaming, but then said a woman can do with what she wants. Like, how does that make sense?
That doesn't make sense, no.
I guess that's male feminism for you.
I bet you could break him like a twig.
All right, so where are we at now? You don't have to wait for me to move on to the next topic. Like, I'm not the only person here.
No,
wish
but
I could see- I wish I could see it.
you're the tech guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm here to derail you.
Now,
Well
we'll
done.
might as well tie this into just a normal China update, because we're still in a tense situation with our relationship with China. There was another stock market crash on the AXX on Monday. It bounced back on Tuesday, but then there's Trump's trade tensions with China. So it's all happening, and it's been in the spotlight. Well, at the beginning of last week about you talked about it on XYZ, our universities, they become over-reliant on Chinese students, and we can't have a Ramsey Center for Western Civilization, that's imperialism, but we can have Chinese Communist Party-backed Confucius centers.
The definition of imperialism.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other bit of
What do we got here?
China development this week was a dual citizen of Australia and China, writer Yang Heigeman. He's been in custody without charge in China since January, and now in August he's been charged with espionage on behalf of the Australian government. And China don't recognise dual citizenship, so they only consider him Chinese and told Australia to butt out, and he could face 10 years in prison.
Isn't that funny? So they consider him to be Chinese. They don't consider him to be Australian.
No.
Is that a little bit racist? Or are you just saying that the Chinese are actually ethnic nationalists?
Well, just because you as we've seen with the Chinese Communist Party activities in Australia, just even if you renounce your Chinese citizenship, they still consider you belong to us.
Yeah.
And you've got relatives back in China. Shame if something happened to them.
So they're basically making the same case that myself and the ethnic nationalists over on the XYZ that I edit, this is the case that we make. Like the Chinese people here in Australia, they're not Chinese Australians, they're Chinese Chinese.
Well, China considers them that.
Yeah, don't you think China should be kind of the authority on this?
China, a communist government.
But they're Chinese. Like that's the point. Like it's only Europeans who have this concept of, hey, people can come from all over the world and be Australians. The Chinese know that's rubbish.
I don't know. I think you're onto something, but you've got to be careful with the lines we draw here, because at the end of the day, it comes back to the individual, who they renounce, and the ideologies they choose to associate with. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on this show, most likely.
Well, yeah, Lebanon has been. It's still in a state of conflict between the Muslim majority, and it's you'll need to explain it. So, Christian Maronite, that's Catholic Church in Lebanon. Can you just clarify that?
Yeah, you're basically right. It's the Middle Eastern version of the Catholic.
So,
Yes.
so if Lebanon was like, like if it was actually a place that you could actually go back to, like, are you able to go back to Lebanon? Like,
I've visited. I visited once in 2017. It's not in wartime right now.
Yeah. Would you prefer to be back in Lebanon, or do you prefer to be in Australia?
No, Australia. I've lived here all my life. I've only been to Lebanon once in my life. And I'm also Syrian as well. I've never been to Syria.
Yeah, so we definitely want to keep Joel, and he's not the only Lebanese Australian who's entered the alt media scene on the right. I'm not sure if you ever met the Riker brothers. There was Charlie Riker who did the Virum Media, and his brother. I can't remember his brother's name, but he was the first Australia's Conservatives candidate for Bennelong.
Okay, yeah, I think I did see them. Yeah.
So yeah, they were also Maronite Christians. So they did. Charlie did a lot of videos during the marriage law postal survey, and he got quite a following on YouTube and Facebook. But he has a young family, and is often what happens with people who enter the alt media with young families. They come first.
But yeah, look, on the topic of drawing lines about all Chinese in Australia or Lebanese, or fill in the blank for whatever ethnicity, I'm always careful, because although that may be true about a segment, and we should always have our guard up against that, at the same time, these are often the people who are, if their eyes have been opened up to how beautiful and how supreme Western society and Western values are, these are often the people that will fight most vigorously to keep it. And we see that with people like Bridget Gabriel. If you've heard of her before, in America, she has over 1 million people in her organization. It's basically a Republican organization, which is purely activist. And if you've seen us speak with Dave Rubin, oh my God, the girl's got fire. And she lived through the 70s massacre of Christians in Lebanon. And it's just people like that. Like, even if you look at the Chinese and the people in Hong Kong that live here now, they're the most avid people against the Chinese government. And that's why I'm careful about that, because I don't want to paint everyone with a broad brush. Should be assessed as an individual.
I mean, have a look at the Vietnamese community here in Australia. I think pretty much if you go to like a major city every weekend, they're holding an anti-communism rally. Like they hate their government back in Vietnam. They didn't escape it just like because Australia had a better standard of living. They wanted to be free citizens. They wanted to escape communism, and they stayed there till the end. They fought till the end against the communists. And like even to this day, even though like Vietnam sort of liberalized a bit, they're like, nah, we still don't trust this government. No, we don't want our new nation to deal with what we fled with. So they're based as.
Here's the problem. Several generations ago, Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Celtic Australians were exactly what you're describing. Say about the Vietnamese or the anti-China Chinese or the Christian Lebanese who fought against the Muslims in the Civil War. And I've seen a number of talks by Bridget Gabriel. It really opened my eyes about the nature of Islam. But the thing is, several generations ago, real Australians, like Anglo-Saxon Australians of British heritage, were exactly the same. We've been subject to the most propaganda by the globalist left, out of any kind of ethnicity. I give you guys another couple of generations, you'll be just as cucked as we are. That's the problem. Like they started on us first.
I've given this a great deal of thought, and I was actually saying to Ricardo Bosi the other night. Some people might know I'm really close with him. I was just saying to him, why is it we have so many ethnics around the table? And I thought it might have something to do with people coming from, as Trump would say, shitholes, maybe. But I think it has more to do with people that have suffered, and it's still within living memory. You see, if you look at the Polish, for example, they're European.
Yeah. But
they have a very strong stronghold there against Muslim immigration, like burqa bans, everything. It's like that's great, and I think that's because they had it so tough in the First and Second World War. They just know, no, you're a fascist. You're going to take my rights away, and I'm not going to let you do it. I think that it's inevitable that a country gets cucked unless they can remember what's happened in the history books. See, I don't think these issues would be a problem 30 years ago because we had, the fall of the Soviet Union within such a recent time. So, people wouldn't do it. But I think what's happened is we haven't learned the lessons of history, and so it's easy to deceive the people.
Well, we've been deceived about history. All through the Cold War, the left still controlled the media here in Australia and in the United States, and in Europe. And so we were fighting the communists over there, but we had the communists here as well, and they've been running our education, and they've been running our entertainment, and they've basically made us forget our own history and our own heritage. And so, yes, we haven't learnt the lessons from history. Now, basically, World War II is basically all becoming about the Holocaust, and not the 50 million Europeans that died as well. So,
nor the 4 million Armenians.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't talk about the Armenian genocide during World War One.
Well, the most prominent liberal commentator in the United States is a Armenian genocide denier.
Yeah, right. There you go.
What's her name? Anna Kasparian.
Yeah. So that's the problem that we're in. Like, people come to Australia thinking that they're coming to a country where they can be free, and where you're going to have the free market, and they think they're coming to a Western country, but they're not. They're coming to a cultural Marxist country, and bringing in more-based migrants isn't going to help that for Australia. Like, it's basically just going to mean more fodder for the cannon. like several generations after this, like you're all going to be in the same boat as us, because you're going to have the same mind control, the same mind games played on you guys as well.
We have got a super chat, our first for the evening from Port Film Co-op, $3. He's a great regular fan of ours. His super chat is, Medi wants to call in and debate who's the real king of the wogs is.
Let's get Maddie in. Maddie,
Australian Meditations. Well, he's got my number. He can call up if he wants. But that's another point we should raise with you. Are Lebanese people wogs?
What do you mean in terms of calling them wogs?
Well, do you come under the...
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
No, yeah, we call each other wogs. I mean, if I come across a Greek, an Italian, anyone Middle Eastern, we basically say wogs. Anything Mediterranean.
So it includes the southern European Mediterranean countries and
absolutely.
the Middle Eastern nations.
Yeah, absolutely. Why? It's such a heavily. It's not like the N word in America. It's just wogs. We use it loosely.
And also, I left out the Slavs as well. I just.
The Slavs are the wogs of the white world, are they?
Well, yeah, they're Yugoslavia and some of those eastern. Oh, when you're getting to east, like those eastern, like Albania, Romania, that's sort of, they're known as the Gypsy nations.
Yeah, I've never met a Serb who wasn't dodgy. Like if there's a dodgy way of doing something, they'll do it the dodgy way. Yeah.
We have got plenty of Slavs in the Australian patriot movement.
Yeah, I know. We need a few dodgy people.
All right.
And sorry, again, that goes back to the thing that they've suffered quite a bit within living memory, and so
yes.
you see them.
They have a living memory of communist rule, and they have a living memory of Ottoman rule. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, for our next topic, trigger warning, we're going to talk about some sick and depraved acts against children, because it's been in the news this week that there's been two pedophile migrants who've been before the courts, and which has just come to light. Now I've got to do this screen swapping thing. Hang on. Talk while I'm doing things. Like, don't wait for me.
So how about those ashes, huh?
Yeah. How about that choke? Here we go.
It wasn't a choke. It was one of the greatest innings I've ever seen in my life. Oh, yeah, it was a choke at the end.
Okay, I've had to... All right, so this is from, TR News, which is, it's Tommy Robinson's website, but it's being run by Arvin Yemeni at the moment. So, Iraqi refugee jailed for sexually assaulting a child. Came to Australia legally by boat. He assaulted a 3-year-old girl at a shopping centre in Sydney's West, where he was working as a security guard. Court had grabbed the child's hand and led her into a fire escape. Corridor for 13 minutes. Albert's DNA was found on the child's underwear. He was convicted of 3 charges, taking and detaining, committing an act of indecency with the victim under 10 years old, and Judge Pickering took into account his tragic upbringing and jailed him for only a minimum of 2.5 years. Albert claimed his brother had been kidnapped and threatened with beheading in Iraq. He also said he'd been shot in the foot and was an unwanted refugee in Iran before he came to Australia illegally by boat.
Yeah, I don't buy it. That's rubbish.
So Scott Morrison has announced that once he's served his sentence, he's going to be deported.
Good.
Joel, are you still with us? Can't see you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. And then I'll go on to, this was another one by TR News today. Another refugee raped a 10-year-old girl. So Hamaz Baremi, 32, faced Adelaide Magistrates Court, pleaded guilty to an aggravated count of indecent assault. In exchange for the guilty plea, prosecutors dropped 2 counts of engaging in sexual intercourse with a person without consent, which carries a much higher maximum penalty of imprisonment. The victim was a 10-year-old girl who was playing on a playground, and he approached her, lured her into a toilet block, and then raped her multiple times. Suppression order as an identity has been lifted. And I should have named and shamed the other guy, Muhammad Al-Bayati. So, remember those names. But, that's just 2 in 1 week, which, both refugees and both sick acts.
Yeah. Being a refugee is not an excuse. That's
No, no.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
they didn't understand the language. They didn't understand. They didn't understand the culture.
there's plenty of people who've had traumatic upbringings that don't rape children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's
ridiculous.
why it's rubbish. So you said it's not just a refugee thing, though.
No, no,
You've
it's
got other
locals as
examples.
well.
Yeah.
Because this was recently. Oh no, this one was another. I just found this one. I'm surprised that Google allowed me to find this. Babysitter jailed after sexually abusing Perth boys. So, 2 7-year-old boys, 5.5 years in prison, likely to be deported to Sri Lanka, serving his term, and yeah, like
So it's still a
Dandy
foreigner.
and Stanley Murati showed one boy pornography and then sexually abused the child in public toilet, threatened to kill him if he told his parents what happened. Separated the same boy in the playroom another day, attacked both children while they're playing, telling them to keep it a secret.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so as I said, this is all like, yeah, really disgusting stuff.
And
But-
so how long did he get?
He got 5.5 years
Okay.
because he like threatened them, like, like that's way worse than what the others did was pretty sick, but
only
he.
only 5.5 years.
Yeah.
This is what amazes a lot of people, that they don't get put in prison for life or just executed.
Mm.
Or how about castrated? I think that was something that I was in favour of for in the last election. Ben Irwan put that forward. I thought chemical castration would have been perfect for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we're not just picking on like refugees and migrants, but at least with these ones we can deport them. But the Australian pedophiles, unfortunately, we can't. We'd love to put them all on. I shouldn't say pedophile island because that's what Epstein's island was, but I don't know, some sort of what would you call it? Just hell on earth island? Put them there.
I'd just call it the gallows.
Mm.
Like there's actually there's been a case made that the genetics of Europeans were actually improved over the course of a number of centuries because the murderers and the rapists were executed on a regular basis. That's one of the ways that we limited degenerate people from actually procreating and spreading their genes, and it's how we actually improve the gene pool. So that's what you do with pedophiles, and that's why.
Now we'll get on to the locals. So, the headline is pretty disgusting. How this babysitter turned his child sex fantasy to reality. My sales assistant, engineering student. I won't. He will spend just 4 months in jail after subjecting a 7-year-old girl to a prolonged vile sex act while he was caring for her and her little brother. I won't go into the details because it's disgusting. But it was mentioned to me, and like, and this came from a man, that why would you get a young man to like babysit like young children? Like, what do you like? Because I know Australian Meditations has said this, that he feels more comfortable with like female childcare workers.
Yeah, I don't. Like, statistically, like, women are actually more likely to abuse kids. That's because statistically they're more likely to actually be looking after kids.
So he's named in this article. He'll be out in 4 months. Isaac Frang William Labero faced Brisbane District Court. So he'll be out in 4 months in the Brisbane area.
Yeah, should be executed.
And there was another one recently, which was just as equally sick. This is Daily Mail. Sick teenage tradie who sexually abused a 15-year-old boy in a public toilet avoids jail despite having a disturbing child porn collection. So he sexually abused the boy in a toilet, sent photos and videos of the horrific attack to friends, and he sent them via Snapchat. So, yeah, like, raped an underage boy in public.
How long did he get, did you say?
No, he got nothing. Suspended, sentenced to 18 months in jail, but it was suspended and he's on a good behaviour bond. And that's a photo of him there. The bottom one photo that the Daily Mail included, oh look, he supports equality.
I knew it. I was going to say it. I knew it. Beta Mail. I knew it. God. That's annoying.
So that was just the ones that, I knew of recently. So yeah, it's not only are we importing like child sex offenders, but the ones who are local, we're hardly punishing them at all.
As a Catholic, Joel, like, what's your view on the death penalty? Because I know that the Pope recently came out speaking against it.
I haven't thought through it completely, to be honest. I know that because I'm not Catholic, I'm actually Orthodox Christian. I usually just say Christian. But
Oh, right, okay, sorry, I got confused because we talked about Maranatha.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool. And also, I don't believe in the infallibility of the Pope, so he can be wrong.
Yeah.
With that said, I actually haven't made my mind up on the death penalty. I think that there are some crimes where, if it is certainly proved beyond basically doubt, reasonable doubt, that the person's committed the crime, yeah, they should die. But the problem I have, the thing that makes me pull the brakes on it, is giving the state the power to kill someone, because evidence is easily manufactured. Just look at what went through with Kavanaugh. There were 12 women that came out against him. If he actually did that, he would have been the most successful serial rapist in American history, and he's basically been ruined for it. They still call him a rapist, and so I don't want the state to have that power.
And
it's ironic, isn't it, that like if a man rapes a woman, we have the right to kill the baby, but we don't have the right to kill the rapist.
Yeah.
While we've got you here, and while we're on this topic, we'll ask you about the Pell conviction, because the Supreme Court of Victoria, in a 2-1 verdict, dismissed his appeal, and so now he's appealing to the High Court his jury verdict for sexually abusing 2 choir boys in 1996, and that's based on the testimony of the sole surviving witness, and it's really divided the community and also Catholics.
Yeah, look, with the Pell case, first of all, let me preface my answer by saying I don't like the guy.
No, he comes across as very unlikable and cold.
And what I haven't liked him, especially since 2013. He was on Q&A with Richard Dawkins, and he pretty much said Adam and Eve was just a story, it was a myth. And there were a lot of Catholics that didn't agree with that, and I'm not Catholic, I didn't agree with it either. So I don't have a lot of love for the guy. And he was also the second most powerful person in the Catholic Church for a long time. He was the treasurer for the Pope himself, the finance officer. But with regard to this case, I don't know a great deal of the information about the case. I've heard some pretty compelling arguments that he didn't do what they accuse him of doing, like he would have had to be able to be in 2 places at once, which doesn't make sense. And from what we heard in the Supreme Court appeal that he put through, there was one of the 3 judges that said he would have let him off with all charges. So it seems like it's going to go to the High Court, and I guess we'll see what happens there. So I'm not going to speculate. I haven't looked into it. I want the guy to see justice if he's done wrong, and if he hasn't done wrong, then let him be free. Just because he's a Catholic, lock him up. You're going to lock me up next.
Because it seems to be that there's 2 extreme views on it. There's those who say hang him from Flinders Street, and then there's the others who say it's all an anti-Catholic conspiracy by the Victorian government to persecute the Catholic Church. That seems to be the 2 extremes.
Could be. It could be. Who knows? But when the facts come out, this guy, he's been through the whole legal system. He's got one more step. Let's see what happens, and then let's debate the facts in the public square. But I just hope he gets a fair hearing, because if he doesn't, that scares the shit out of me about this country.
Now we're going to go on to probably the sort of more absurd stories of the week, because we've talked about some pretty grim topic just before. So I want to talk about sort of, they're obviously absurd and cloud world stuff, but at least we can sort of laugh about them. So I'll just bring up this week's, where I'll bring it over here.
So just put it above my head. There we go.
Yeah.
Bring Joel back.
Yeah, so Adot Tech says Who magazine used an image of the wrong model should be a wake-up call to the industry.
Because they all look the same.
So that's what she actually looks like. That's her Instagram. And if we go down, this is the photo that they put of her.
God, that's funny.
Remember a few years ago when there was the Google that they were trying to train the Google to like name what the Google image, like when an image came up and the Google like AI would name what it was, and when African people came up on the Google search, it was naming them something which we're not supposed to call them. Do you remember that?
No, I haven't heard of that.
It was a thing. It actually happened. It's been swept under the carpet. Yeah, they don't talk about that anymore.
Yes, so
They've had bad experiences with the AI.
So basically, mistaken identity. It must be because of racism.
Oh, anybody could have made that mistake. Come on.
But it's always been.
We can't go too hard on
the joke in Australia has always been that Asians look the same.
Yeah.
Like that's always that's always.
Can you say that again?
All Asians look the same.
That's it.
But I think that the reason we got past it though is because we've got so many Asians in Australia now that we can tell the difference. Like,
Well, at least the chicks are hot.
sorry.
At least the chicks are hot.
We can definitely tell the difference
Lovely.
between a Chinese person and an Indonesian person. Like, you can tell that difference.
Yeah, long last name. Long last name.
Yeah.
So, next topic that we have is, yes, Dave Chappelle. Do you know? Are you old enough to know who he is, Joel?
He rings a bell.
Yeah, so he's
Yes.
a African American comedian. He's actually a Muslim, but he's most famous for this show on Comedy Central, Chappelle's Show, which is basically just mocking racial stereotypes. And his most famous sketch is the black white supremacist Clinton Bigsby, where he says the word that you're not allowed to say anymore. And then
Yeah.
then he did a follow-up sketch about a white family that had that word and all the funny things that could be said about that.
Yeah. And he's back now, isn't he?
Yeah, he had a Netflix special, and
Because
we're all
did you see the ad where like he's out in like some desert, like in like a salt lake or something like that, like salt flat, and like he's walking up to like the chair with a microphone or something, but he's wearing this really, really long t-shirt, and it looks like he's actually wearing a dress. It looks like he's wearing a mini skirt with jeans. It was really, really weird. I was like, what the hell is going on here?
like, yeah, Dave Chappelle. He's like, because in the not too distant past, you could make politically incorrect jokes. You're probably too young to remember this, Joel. But back in my day, because I'm nearly 30, I can say this now.
How old are you, Joel?
22.
22. I like how you just keep reminding Joel how young he is.
Yes.
He could remind us how old we are.
Because
No.
I'm old enough to say now that yes, back in my day it was a simpler time. Those were the days. Because
I remember. Let me tell you kids about the 80s. Yeah.
because
Are
you
you
could
guys
actually
going to tell me about George Carlin and his skit on, going through all those, names and all that?
well, we're just saying that you could actually be funny 15 years ago. Like you could actually put politically incorrect humor on the air, and Dave Chappelle was one of those people. There was also Chris Rock as well. You could like comedy was actually daring.
It's got to be said though. Like 15 years ago, black guys could say that sort of stuff.
Yes. Well, you can
Now, not even black guys can say that.
yes, because Vice instructed their audience not to view Dave Chappelle's Netflix special, just to say it's terrible. You don't need to watch it.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Apparently, the most offensive joke he made was that about because there's been that Leaving Neverland documentary about these two boys that spent time with Michael Jackson who said that they raped them, even though Michael Jackson went through a trial and was found not guilty, but apparently a HBO documentary means that Michael Jackson's guilty. And Dave Chappelle made a joke that, oh, there's so many victims of like child sexual abuse. At least like theirs was memorable with Michael Jackson, which is like, I mean, it's a pretty bad taste joke, but like you're sort of like, yeah, like, but it's not a cancellation like offense in my opinion.
No, my theory about Michael Jackson being let off was they basically wanted to avoid the LA riots.
Sorry?
They basically wanted to avoid LA riots Mark II.
I mean, he was tried by a jury. I mean, you can't, like, the jury just wasn't convinced, like, because, like, basically they were all after money, most of these boys.
Yeah, but
he was a weirdo.
Yeah,
definitely.
and you've heard, from what I've heard with Michael Jackson, like he condemns himself with his own words. Yeah,
Dave, I think you've gone quieter because I can't hear you now.
No, it's because you've got both things on the ears. Yeah.
All right, I'll try this now.
Yeah.
That helps.
Oh, there's also a lot of sort of interference on Joel's end, but I'm not gonna complain about that because Joel was good enough to join us at short notice. So.
Sure, is it too loud? Is it too sensitive?
Yeah, we can fix it another time. No one's complained in the chat. They're normally the biggest complainers about tech stuff. So yeah, you haven't pissed them off. That's a good thing. They're just more fascinated by your complexion. That's what they're fascinated about.
It'll take them a few episodes to get over. Don't worry.
All right, so it was a historic day in Victoria, or Tuesday evening, because the gender birth certificates passed the upper house, which means that in Victoria now you can change your gender every 12 months to male to female, or female to male, or...
Did you say every 12 months? So
yeah.
Is there a 12-month limit?
Yes, only once in 12 months.
So you can only change it once a year.
Yes, what about their gender fluid people who change like every day? Like they should have a birth certificate phone app where based on what you're feeling at the time, you can just change your birth certificate via the app too.
There's actually moon gender as well, where you're a different gender at night. So that's going to be an issue. Have you heard of that?
No. Yes, just then.
Moon gender.
Moon gender. Wow.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they have to limit it to once a year, that tells you we're living in a clown world. That tells you it's bullshit. Absolutely. Like, what is this? They have to limit it to once a year because they know that there are people who are going to change it every day. That's insane. That fact alone tells you that it's rubbish.
But
like, I can just see, like, on the floor of Parliament as they're passing this, and they mention that clause, and people are looking around and going, "Hey guys, are we really doing this?"
Passed 26 votes to 14 in the upper house.
Wow, that just like that's one of the dumbest things I've heard, and I've heard a lot of dumb things.
And you don't.
They've limited it to once a year.
And of course, you don't need to have surgery to.
No, of course not.
Like, don't need even like a doctor's thing to say that you're going through gender dysphoria.
Yeah, I've been loving hearing the way that they describe it, like saying, "Oh, it's wonderful that now people don't have to go through the horribly invasive process of that kind of surgery to change their gender, and it's actually going to encourage people to do it a lot more. They're going to feel a lot more comfortable now that they don't have to chop their penis off." It's just...
Well, because the belief is that, like, well, if you identify as, because it's gone from just having the appearance of the opposite gender, like, if you're male to female and you look female, like, you could get away with like still having a penis because not many people are going to see that. But now it's like you don't even have to like make an effort to look like the opposite gender, because there was that one, was it Danielle Moscato? Have you ever heard of that? It's basically a fat bald guy who's a woman.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, the irony is that guy then is actually far more honest about the nature of all this, because this is the argument that I've made for a long time. Just say like a boy starts, just a 4-year-old boy might like want to wear a tutu for like a week or so, and then the transgender activists will make the argument, oh well, maybe he actually identifies as a boy because he's exhibiting feminine characteristics, but all the other time they're saying, oh no, we should not stereotype feminine characteristics and masculine characteristics. Yeah, but when it suits their agenda, like i.e. to actually chop somebody's penis off, then it does. Then actual feminine and masculine characteristics matter.
The reason why they've complicated it so much that say
It's not
traditional like feminine masculine characteristics don't matter for self-identification anymore is because the radical feminists used to oppose transgenderism because the men who were transitioned to women, they wanted to be like Barbie dolls, which look like really feminine, and so they didn't like that because it's reinforcing gender stereotypes. And
Yeah,
so,
there we go. Yeah.
So it's sort of been a fusing together of those of these two groups to get like a united left, and so it's now that you can be. That's why gender is a social construct now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trans people. They hate what the left is doing. Like Bill C-16 in Canada, the one Jordan Peterson was fighting against. The trans people, they've sent him hundreds of letters, Jordan Peterson, hundreds of letters saying, "Thank you for doing this. We just want to get on with our life. We just want to blend in. We don't want people to, treat us as this, with positive rights, with these extra." Rights as a citizen. We just want to fit in. We just, I'm a biological man. I just want to look like a woman and just get on with my life. Just like sort of a Blair White sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is it that these white liberals are the ones that are your biggest advocates? And it's like, well, they're just trying to earn, cookie points sort of thing.
That's right. Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. Well, did you see, like when Jordan Peterson was on Q&A, they deliberately sat him next to the Aussie guy. What's his name again?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and I think they thought that having him next to
Kate McGregor.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I think they thought that having him next to Mr. McGregor would create fireworks, but they actually got on like a house on fire.
Yeah, because Kate McGregor is very conservative. I mean, she's Tony Abbott's friend.
Yeah, he kept boasting about his bowling average or something like this. Yeah, I know his batting average. Yeah,
because she's a cricket commentator.
Yeah. It's amazing. We get him as a cricket commentator and we get Walid Ali as a cricket commentator. What the hell is going on in Australia?
Good God.
Then we learnt today. It was broken by Chris Uhlman on Twitter. Now you just talk while I get this up.
Let's read out the comments from the chat. Oh no, hang on, that's not.
Oh dear.
What have we got in here? What are people talking about? Why are they picking on Dia?
She must be the flavour of the night because it was Avi Kwaku, and now
they'll be saying Dia did 9/11. I want to see that appear in the feed.
What have they got against Dia? Oh, good.
All right, here we go. So Chris Newman, the political editor of 9 News, formerly of the ABC, he tweeted this image today. Meanwhile, at the Barton offices of the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, PMC is committed to staff inclusion and diversity. Please use the bathroom that best fits your gender identity. So... Well, and a few hours later, Scott Morrison said, "This is political correctness gone mad. I'm going to take down the sign." And there were conservatives saying, "Oh, good on you, ScoMo." But this is his department, Prime Minister and Cabinet, and he doesn't know what's on the bathroom doors. Like, a journalist has to basically tweet it out. I mean, if he doesn't know that, then he probably doesn't know a lot of things.
No, he's probably so busy he didn't notice.
I know, maybe I don't know, your chief of staff maybe went down to the department and maybe needed to go to the toilet there and might notice that.
I'm just still laughing at the whole 12 months rule. Oh my goodness.
I think you can. Well, those bathrooms, you can use a different one, anytime. There's no 12... You don't have to commit to use the same bathroom for 12 months.
They'll change their agenda just to use the other one, the one that's free. Cleaner one or something.
Have you...
Well, actually, there's already a, transgender toilet. It's called the disabled toilet. That toilet is always clean and it's always available. It's always free.
The ambulant one?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to a place which like declares all the bathrooms gender neutral?
No.
I have, and
Where was that?
it was at a university because they were holding
course
like
it was.
a queer conference down the hallway, and so
Okay.
they just plastered some signs on the bathrooms to make them gender neutral.
Oh, what? Just for the day, huh?
Yeah. But the
Yeah,
thing
right.
is, like, ordinary people, like, they see that, and like they can still see the male and the female signs on it. And it's like,
So
I'm
the
still going to go to the, I'm still not going to go into the women's restroom,
Yes.
as a biological male, even though it says I can.
Yeah, unless I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. It'd be funny if you just saw all the guys lining up at the women's one, and all the women just like, nope,
Yeah.
I can hold it in.
Yeah. Well, that's the irony, isn't it? Like, this is feminism gone mad. It's always hurt women, and now it's hurting them. Going to hurt them even
Oh,
more.
I noticed that at outdoor festivals, you know how they have the outdoor portable ones?
Yeah.
They're completely enclosed, yet they still have male and female ones, even though they're completely enclosed.
Well, talking about outdoor festivals, the dunnies there are just rank and disgusting. Anyway, I've been at the big day out where there are like lots and lots of chicks in the queue for the guys' toilets, just because the queue for the women's toilets is just ridiculous, and so everybody just deals with it, and we all just understand, and we all just get along and just keep going. Yeah.
Get along with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But that was just out of necessity. Yeah.
Desperate times, desperate.
It was pretty desperate. That was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. Yeah.
All right, and on to back international matters. So the G7 was in France. Emmanuel Macron. When he became president, I wondered whether he'd like be the new Unshackled Cuck of the Year, but it's always been won by the other G7 leader, Justin Trudeau.
He's got some big competition there, doesn't he? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously there was tension was hyped up because Boris Johnson's in the middle of Brexit, Trump is in the middle of trade negotiations with China, and then the Amazon caught fire while it was happening, and Macron basically wanted to have sovereignty over the Brazilian Amazon.
Yeah.
And Bolsonaro it's said basically the Amazon is ours, but we don't want your money, your interference. Fix up your own deforested country before telling us.
Yeah, good on him.
And he also did a Trump, and he retweeted a photo
Yes.
of.
Do you have a photo of that?
I couldn't find it. Do you want me to?
Can you just find a random photo of Bridget Macron? Sorry, you were going to say, Joel?
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't he make a swipe at Macron's wife, Bridget Macron?
Yes.
Because this is the beauty of it. Like, if we're talking about the Amazon, let's get a photo of her up there. Any
I'll
photo
see if I
will
can
do.
find this comparison one. Here we here's something here.
Oh yeah. I can see
Here we
something
go.
on the
Yeah.
field.
So
Yeah, there we go. That one there. So,
yeah, that's
are we able to expand the image of Bridget?
a
I
little
hate to
bit.
inflict this on our listeners and on
Yeah.
our watchers, but like, if talking about the Amazon, like if you look at Bridget Macron, like that face and just her whole image, she actually looks like an Amazon pygmy.
Wow.
Bridget Macron.
Yeah, like look at that face. She's disgusting.
Well,
Absolutely
yeah.
disgusting.
If in case you don't know the backstory, she was his high school teacher.
Yes, I know. And like, they met when he was 15.
Yes.
Yeah.
I correct me if I'm wrong. I think there was a bit of a scandal around about the election. Macron was elected. Something about her getting a job in the EU and getting paid working there or something. Or was it the UN? I can't remember. There's some scandal there, financially speaking. But
You're
I
right.
thought I'd throw my 5 cents in.
Well,
And
yeah, he's from the financial. Macron is from the financial system, so the globalists picked him, and like, you look at who is his wife, and you're like, okay, they picked him because they can control him and they've got dirt on him. That's the way I look at it. Like, I see Bridget Macron, I'm like, she should be in jail.
Yeah. And there's Michelle Bolsonaro, 37. I mean, he's 66, but
Yeah, good on him.
Mm.
And she's pumped out like 4 or 5 kids.
Yeah, and she apparently, because she's devout evangelical, she's
Yeah.
apparently a big spiritual advisor to Bolsonaro.
Yeah, good on him.
And he's, I spoke to...
I love what he said about his kids. He said, "Oh, I've got, it's either 3 or 4 sons." He's got, yeah, I had 4 sons, and then I had a moment of weakness, and I had a daughter.
Yeah. He's an absolute madman. He said he couldn't love a gay son. That's another thing that he said. And like, you know how Sargon got into like trouble like when he was a candidate, you know, saying like, I wouldn't rate this MP. Like Bolsonaro said like the same thing to a woman's face. And like I looked at the actual footage today, and he actually pushes her, like puts his hand like on her, like people talk about how Trump's a madman. Like Bolsonaro, he's full on like.
Yeah. Oh, he's nuts. Yes. And yeah, he abuses and he like threatens like these Marxists. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's why they've gone after him over these forest fires. Like on the XYZ, like we showed the graph.
Yeah,
like,
I've got
forest
the
fires
article
over
up
the
if
years.
we want to have a look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. We just need to see the graph because Adam Piggott made the point and he made it perfectly. Like, okay, so you see that graph?
Can I enlarge it?
Yep. Oh,
Yeah,
there we go. So, you've got 2019. Yes, it's a little bit higher than 2018. That's showing forest fires in Brazil. But you go back a decade and a little bit more, and it was over double. And that's when socialists were in power. And so that's why they're going after Macron. Like, this is Macron. That's why they're going after Bolsonaro. This is Bolsonaro's Hurricane Katrina. George W. Bush, globalist, whatever, neocon, he was blamed basically for Hurricane Katrina. And they basically just blamed him because he was a Republican and they could. And they said, oh, climate change is all your fault. So now they're basically doing this to Bolsonaro. They've been trying to find some stupid way to like unite the world against him, and they've got it.
Yeah. Well, Macron called it the lungs of the world, and like it's 20% of the oxygen. So apparently we're all going to choke because the Amazon's on fire. So if we start to all cough, it's the Amazon. It's because the Amazon's on fire. I mean, who thought that like just some wildfires would like we'd all be suffocating?
I'm dying. we could just read out more Bolsonaro quotes. They are amazing.
Yes, there's a whole list of them.
Yeah.
But what else have we? What's the time now? Oh, it's after 10 o'clock. We've been going for. We had the interruption there when people thought we'd been taken out.
Yeah. Oh, well, that might actually. Looking at that last one on the list, that might be quite appropriate.
Yes, because Scott Morrison at the G7, his big thing has been we need to get the social tech giants to take more action against. It was originally extremist content, but the US, because they actually still believe in free speech, they said it has to be violent terrorist extremist content. So it can't just be extremist content; it has to be violent.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I made that point in a couple of podcasts where I said I don't trust Silent Scott, as Ricardo Bossi would say, because even though he sees that as a big win, the US had to pull him up and say, hang on, what about free speech? We need to make this change. And I just thought that was fascinating because it just showed that, Scott Morrison, he could easily put some hate speech laws and enshrine them in on the back of this disaster that happened in the New Zealand shooting, whether it happened or not. And that's not what anyone wants, because we don't need hate speech laws and crackdowns.
Well, what he's now implemented for Australia, apparently he didn't need legislation to implement this, is that the ISPs will be directed when there's a terrorist attack to block sites that are known or suspected of circulating the footage. So basically, in a state of emergency, Scott Morrison can just shut down the internet completely if he wants to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we earlier this year when there was the rally in St Kilda that Fraser Anning attended with Blair Cottrell, and they accused him of being at a Nazi rally. And like we actually saw the footage, and like these people were doing Bazzi Fawlty impersonations at Antifa because Antifa were calling all the conservatives their Nazis. we like both your Facebook page and my Facebook page. We both received bans for several days.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was like on the day of the rally, and so for several days, the mainstream media were able to they put out their propaganda about the event, and then a couple of days later, we were able to counter it and actually go viral with the stuff that we put out about those rallies. So that's kind of like the beta run for this. Basically, they know who everybody is who puts out alternatives to the mainstream media narrative, and so when something like this will happen, okay, you all get shut down, or either suspended or permanently. You know what I mean?
Because we saw with the Sydney CBD terror stabbing.
Yeah.
Remember, the news reported that he said Allah Akbar, and it was captured on camera and broadcast.
Yes.
And remember that Waleed Ali said that evening, I don't think we really need to see that. And, of course, like, we now know why they want to, censor footage of terrorist incidents to cover things like that up. If the footage is censored of someone saying Allah Akbar, did it happen?
Yeah.
So this is the dangerous thing. I mean, yes, the Christchurch one, that's like some pretty intense footage, but like the public, like if there's a terrorist attack, we have a right to know what exactly happened.
Yeah.
I mean, and I made the point in my article at the time. It was broadcast live on television. The plane hitting the South Tower.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and like hundreds of people were incinerated instantly. Like, should that be censored? Because remember that that footage, like people seeing that, they could make conclusions of their own. That's quite dangerous.
Yeah. So what you're basically saying is that this will be used to minimize Islamic terrorism.
Oh, just that the approved news reports what happened in a terrorist incident, and we're told to believe it, and that's the end of the matter, and the government will take care of it.
Yeah, well said.
And it was interesting. I checked a few of the Antifa pages today, and it's so funny. They support ScoMo in blocking these hate sites,
of course they do.
And they want more surveillance to monitor these hate groups, and like they're supposed to be anarchists, suspicious of big government, but now, as long as it's used on fascists, we're okay. Like you can censor our internet.
Well, yeah, ScoMo, they could take down Antifa in a week if they outlawed that terrorist organization. But they're not going to. The point that we were making before the election, the federal election, was that the Liberal Party had the least worst policy on censorship. Like this is basically ScoMo was going through with what he said he was going to do. Like he wanted greater restrictions on freedom of speech. You had the Labor Party wanting new hate speech laws. You basically wanted the Greens saying we want to be able to lock conservatives up.
Sky News shut down for hate speech, and of course, Christina Keneally went off a block recently, wanting Raheem Kassem, banned from Australia, and
Dean Natali with the Bolts as well as Alan Jones. They wanted to get rid of both of them.
That's what I meant. Sky News down for hate speech. Well, Sleeping Giants Oz, they're still getting advertisers withdrawing from his program. That's the other subversive way that they can shut down people that they don't like. Because now Sleeping Giants and this other Twitter account, Mad Fucking Witches, they're just messaging random companies. It says, like, if you ever consider advertising on 2GB or the Alan Jones show, you must consider these comments. And, like, these companies still reply and say, yes, we do not approve of these comments.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about Sleeping Giants is we've got to actually have a campaign to end Sleeping Giants. I love the fact that they actually tried to hold a rally and they barely had 25 people. Was that in Melbourne or Sydney? I think it was Melbourne, actually. I could be wrong.
Yeah, because it's just it
Melbourne
only
or
has
Sydney.
it's 5,000 followers. It doesn't have many followers.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah. But yeah, it gets all this attention.
Yeah, and that's internet censorship and internet rage mobs in a microcosm there. Like we've talked before about how the media will report that there's been a Twitter storm over something, and they said, oh, there were dozens of tweets about say what Pauline Hanson was saying about climbing Ayers Rock.
Yeah.
And we're like, dozens of tweets. That's a slow day on the XYZ or the Unshackled.
Yeah. Apparently she was destroyed on a current affair because she's a 64-year-old woman. Of course she's going to struggle to climb a rock, but like that's not the point. The point is that like it's being banned not because it's dangerous, but because it's insensitive.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And so the point here is that like the media, they inflate like something like Sleeping Giants. Sleeping Giants' influence is inflated because like the corporations and the media actually pay attention to them because they're all on the same side essentially. But there are more of us than them. Like they like to paint the picture that conservatives and patriots and nationalists are like on the fringe, but we're the vast bulk of people in the West, in this country, across Europe, in America. They're always trying to say, oh no, they're just the fringe, they're crazy people, but it's really just a tiny minority of people who hold this power, and they're the gatekeepers to the information.
And now Port Film Co-op is madly tagging all of us and using all caps. Salvini is out of power. Matteo Salvini.
Yeah, good point.
Because he was deputy prime minister in a coalition, his Liga party, with the Five Star Coalition. Now Five Star Coalition has teamed up with the Centre Left Party and frozen him out. And so, what would you call it? A grand coalition? That's what I'd call it.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. He made a play for power. Like, I was going to say Forza Italia. The Lega, they were becoming more popular, so he thought, hey, here's my chance to actually become prime minister in my own right. And it failed. But I hope he keeps trying, because they've got to control Italy. Because he was doing amazing work for Italy's border protection.
He was stopping all the boats. The other European nations, they were all suckers and said, we'll take them, because
it went from the point where Italy used to take the most migrants, and now it's Spain.
Steel Archer, he's been doing a lot of stories on how Salvini has just been turning them back, detouring them, just no, not taking them. It's
give it another 5 years, they'll be putting torpedoes in there.
I think they're going to do an election very soon then, with that destabilization that's happened.
Yeah.
Was it the prime minister there resigned?
Yes, and he had to go at Salvini in his resignation speech.
Yeah, right.
Spitting the dummy.
So maybe Salvini, he made the calculation, hey, I can either get power now, or I can force them to have an election soon and get power then.
Yeah.
Go, Salvini.
All right. Has anyone else got any burning things they want to discuss?
I'm good. I'm done.
Now, Joel, it's your first Uncuckables show. The big question is, do you want to come back on?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. I've had a scan through the comments. It's nothing I haven't seen on Twitter. I actually think Twitter was worse, particularly from the left. But no, that was cool.
Well, according to one commenter, you said the most radical thing on the show tonight.
What was it?
Or you can find it in the comments. I'm not going to repeat it.
All right, no worries.
Because it was that radical.
Okay.
Now, we have got some exciting news about the Uncuckables production. First of all, tonight we are launching the official Uncuckables website, the uncuckables.com, where you can access the archive of episodes. This is episode 24, and we now have it in podcast form. So you can go on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, or whatever you use.
Right.
It's got an RSS feed, so you can listen to us in the car or wherever. Doesn't always have to be YouTube. And do you want to...
I was just going to say, we often get requests for that sort of stuff, so I'll have a chat to you about how to get that done for XYZ Live and Melbourne Traditionalists.
Yeah, definitely. And the other news, do you want to announce it?
What, the Ashes?
No. Oh, having been rationalrise.tv.
Yeah. You talk about it.
It shows who was paying attention. Yeah, so Rationalrise TV.
I've been like, this is my day. It's an A. It's an A. No, there. Okay, with your third finger. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit.
All right, yeah. So rationalrise.tv. James Fox Higgins. He's preparing for the doomsday when YouTube, Google deletes us all, because they pretty much want. Well, Google have made clear they don't want Trump to win in 2020, and a lot of people suspect that they got rid of Google Hangouts to limit people's live streaming ability, so they couldn't, put out alternative viewpoints. And I've also been noticing, the notification bell when you subscribe to a channel. I had been unsubscribed, or the notification bell had been from the Unshackled channel from my account, so I wasn't getting notified when Steele does one of his shows.
You've been unsubscribed from your own channel.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So and this has happened before, and so, well, I might as well do it now. If you're a subscriber to the Uncuckables channel, if you're not already, you should be. We're over 400 subscribers now. Let's keep growing. If you're a subscriber to the Unshackled channel, or Maddie Rose Live, or Maddie's Modern Life, don't just subscribe, but click the bell to allow notifications when so you know that new content has been uploaded, and when we are going live, because you can all of a sudden just find yourself just unnotified.
Yeah. Frankly, I'm amazed that we've been allowed on all these channels for so long.
Well, we've had to self-censor quite a bit. We don't say bad words anymore.
unless Maddie's really drunk.
Yeah. I don't recall him saying any bad words.
Don't you remember when on the election night when Scott Morrison came out?
No, I don't.
He was off camera. He was still going. It was amazing.
Okay. Yeah. So going back, Rational Rise TV. It is a self-hosted video subscription platform, run obviously by James Fox Higgins, who is the editor-in-chief of the Rational Rise. So it has all his Rational Rise content there. It has all the Uncuckables episodes. It also has the XYZ Live and Maddie's Modern Life. The Unshackled back catalogue of videos is enormous, and so I think for that I'm just gonna have to meet up with James in person and just give him a massive hard drive. that's the only what's gonna work. It's not gonna be a Dropbox.
Okay. Yeah, it's really great. He's created his own platform. It's awesome.
Yeah,
that's what you need. Everybody needs their own platform.
Yes, and that's what's happening more with the alternative media, just moving to these self-hosted site subscription models, so you're not reliant on getting advertising. Because Gavin McGuinness, he's back with freespeech.tv after he got fired from the Blaze TV. He's just started his own network with Blackjack and Hookers. He's got Milo and Coulter with him, so he's back to full capacity.
He's got Anne on there.
Yes.
Oh, good on him.
So, and he's the boss, so he can just go back to just saying what he wants.
Yeah, good on him. Good.
And there's also unauthorized.tv. That's Vox Days network. So
we're all creating our own platforms.
yes,
Yeah.
but the thing is, they're subscriptions, so you've got to pay for it, because we can only rely on monetization so much. So our fan base continues to grow, but we need your support, and obviously because I haven't checked Entropy, because there's been another error where if I enlarge the Firefox screen, then it's going to cover the screen. So another technical error. We're definitely being sabotaged some way tonight. But thank you to those who sent super chats, and I've set up a PayPal donation form on the Uncuckables.com, so you can donate to us directly. Go on there anytime. Give us $5, $10. Whatever, and we'll fight over the way to distribute it.
Good work, Tim. Good work. Yeah.
So it's exciting times here, and we've got more content planned in the future. I'm launching a new show, hopefully next week, Trans Tasman Talk, with my New Zealand cat about Dewey de Boer, editor of Right Minds NZ, because
brilliant.
obviously, well, their Prime Minister over there, Jacinta Ardern, she obviously wants to stick her nose and teeth into Australian politics quite a bit. And so, yeah, there's a lot of Australians who, well, 5 years ago, they didn't know who the Prime Minister of New Zealand was, but certainly it feels like that New Zealand has a bit more of a flow to Australian politics.
Yeah. Good work, man. Good work.
Yes. Hopefully, 2020 New Zealand election it's going to be a MAGA election. Make Ardern go away.
I hate it when they do that, because it's exactly what Obama did when Brexit was on. He was campaigning in the UK saying, we won't give you a deal with the US if you guys leave.
And she's declining in popularity now, and she's blamed it on, that's just what happens when you do big things.
Really?
Really.
And
she was booed at the All Blacks when they won the Bledisloe Cup.
Wow.
And that was 2 days after, Alan Jones said put a sock down her throat. So obviously the people of New Zealand, they didn't really care.
What a bunch of misogynists, huh? Yeah, good.
And
put a burqa on her as well, like she wears the
oh yeah, she wore the hijab again at some Islamic women's thing.
She'd make a whole lot of people happier if she just wore the full niqab, I've got to say.
I wrote an article on that, the fact that because it's not required actually in Islam, it just says dress modestly. So she's actually taking away choice from Islamic women by, to show respect to Muslims, you have to wear it. Because our female Muslim in the House of Representatives, Anne Ali, she doesn't wear the hijab. And neither does Marine Faruqi, the Greens in the Senate.
If we're going to keep going on this, I'll make my point. So, the thing about the hijab, that whatever you wear on your head for Muslims, I don't care about female liberation. Like, I could not give a stuff. The reason I oppose any kind of head coverings for Islam is because I oppose Islam. The thing about the head coverings, yeah, sure, you can make arguments about women's liberation and whatever, but it's basically it's a way to indicate that it's about geographical control. Basically, if you see a headscarf, that tells you, okay, there are Muslims in this area. If you see a few headscarves, okay, there are quite a few Muslims in this area. If you see a whole lot of headscarves, a whole lot of face coverings, you're in a Muslim area. Basically, it's a way of creating facts on the ground and basically claiming territory for Islam.
It's the victory flag sort of thing.
Yes. Well, in the same way that they will either convert a church or a temple into a mosque, or just build over the holiest sites of the people that they've conquered. They understand about making a sort of just a physical statement and saying, this is our territory, this is ours. We own our women, and we are basically using our women to say this is our territory.
Well, Ilhan Omar, she wears the hijab, but it seems that no one owns her because she's divorcing her husband for a second time, because remember, she was separated from him to marry her brother, but now Ilhan Omar, she's been cited in these divorce papers because a campaign consultant is separating from his wife, and the wife blames Ilhan Omar for having an affair with her husband while they're working together.
Yeah, I never said there was anything to do with moral. Like these, yeah, she's
and there was
but she's wearing the Muslim headscarf in the U.S. Congress. That's a way of saying, okay, we have a beachhead in your parliament.
But yeah, Ilhan Omar, it's her hijab's unraveling. There was actually a really, I would say, crass tweet. Shall I read it out on air about Ilhan Omar?
Do it.
All right.
Do it.
It was by, I think, one of the mega thoughts, really attractive blonde girl. And she said that Ilhan Omar wants the US borders to be as open as her legs. And she prefaced in the tweet that I'm not slut shaming, I'm home wrecking shaming. And it's just like, I think when like the US, you know, they were getting their first hijab congresswoman, that, you know, they weren't getting somebody who was basically more sleazy than, you know, the congressman.
Well, that is the irony of it, isn't it? Like the whole point of wearing the hijab is to say, okay, well, we're actually projecting modesty. You know, it's about dressing modestly. It goes against the whole point of like one of the arguments that they make for it. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been quite a ride, this Ilhan Omar journey.
Yeah, she's let's just say riding up shit creek without a paddle right now.
Now, Joel, before we go, what's planned for you next? Obviously, you're doing work with Carnage House Productions, but you've got your own YouTube channel as well, which you sort of, because you're out and about in public as well, out in Sydney, because there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, look, there's a range of things going on. I mean, one of the things, as you know, is the UTS, mandatory sexual consent stuff I'm fighting. Doing a speech at UNSW on the 24th of September. I'm pretty sure it's free entry, so come along. It's at the Red Theatre in South Sydney if you're around. But you know, I'm talking to a range of politicians about these issues and how to combat them. Free speech as well, online censorship. I'm working on stuff in the background, and yeah, there's a number of things, as you know, Tim. There's a lot of things we're all juggling at the same time because no one else will do it. But yeah, no, there's things happening. But please give me a follow on Facebook. It's just my name, Joel Jammal, on YouTube, and yeah.
And make sure you subscribe to the Carnage House Productions channel, because, well, you're just an occasional contributor. It's run by the Cameron brothers, Alexander, Dougal, and Andy. So they do a good job with their interviews and the wrap every week, which is released Monday morning in podcast form. I'm waiting for Dougal to upload, because he went to the Socialist Conference in Sydney and got kicked out, and so I'm waiting on that footage.
Me too. That was hilarious from what I saw.
The Proud Boys were there the previous day, and they were just trolling because the Socialists, they took a vow of silence, and so one of them was just trying to bait them to like say something. He was just insulting them.
That's so good. Beautiful.
All right, so thanks again, Joel, for coming on, and yeah, next time we'll give you a bit more notice, because James Fox Higgins was meant to be on, but he's a family man, and so like there's always sort of family stuff that comes up.
Yeah,
But
much appreciated, Joel. It's been nice meeting you.
No worries. My pleasure. Thanks very much.
And we'll see if the outro music works this time.